The sleepy town of Oakhaven always prided itself on its unwavering spirit, a legacy born from the legend of its courageous founders. Every year, on the Harvest Moon Festival, Mayor Thompson would recount the tale of the 5 intrepid families who, centuries ago, braved the treacherous Whisperwood to establish their new home, guided by a mysterious, luminous moss that only grew where the purest water flowed. This moss, they said, was Oakhaven's blessing, ensuring their perpetual prosperity and good fortune. But some blessings, it turns out, are built on the rod of secrets. Elara, a quiet historian fresh out of university, had always found Oakhaven's official narrative a little too perfect. Her grandmother, a woman of sharp wit and even sharper memory, had often whispered about things best left buried, especially concerning the town's oldest families. When Elara inherited her grandmother's small cottage, she also inherited a dusty, locked wooden chest, tucked away beneath loose floorboards. The key, a tarnished silver bird, hung on a forgotten nail behind a painting of a stern-faced ancestor. Inside the chest, nestled amongst dried lavender and yellowed lace, lay a journal. Not just any journal, but the meticulously kept diary of Lyra Caldwell, one of the original 5 founders. Elara's heart pounded as she read the elegant, looping script, expecting tales of hardship and triumph. Instead, the entries slowly unveiled a different story, one that grew colder with each turning page. Lyra's early entries indeed spoke of hope and the arduous journey through Whisperwood. She detailed the struggle against the unforgiving terrain and the dwindling supplies. But then, a chilling shift occurred. The luminous moss, the very symbol of Oakhaven's divine guidance, wasn't a blessing found, it was a resource stolen. Lyra wrote of a small, reclusive community already living deep within the woods, cultivating the unique, phosphorescent fungus for its medicinal properties. They were a peaceful people, almost unseen, until the Oakhaven founders stumbled upon their hidden grove. What followed wasn't an amicable sharing, but a brutal, calculated expulsion. The journal vividly described how the 5 families, desperate in facing starvation, saw not neighbors, but an opportunity. They ambushed the reclusive community, driving them from their ancestral lands, taking their moss, and then systematically burning their dwellings to erase all traces. The whispering in Whisperwood, Lyra penned in anguish, was not the wind, but the lost cries of the displaced, their pleas for mercy swallowed by the trees. Lyra herself had been horrified, caught between her loyalty to her family and the gnawing guilt of the atrocity. She recounted how the others, particularly Bartholomew Thorne, the patriarch of the most influential founding family, had justified their actions as necessary for survival, twisting the theft into a divine sign. The luminous moss, now cultivated by the founders, became their symbol, its glow a constant, silent lie. Elara felt sick. The town's very foundation was stained with blood and deceit. The annual Harvest Moon Festival, with its celebratory recounting of their courageous origins, was a mockery. The current Mayor Thompson, a descendant of Bartholomew Thorne, led the parades, oblivious or perhaps woefully ignorant of the true horror. She considered what to do. Exposing the truth would shatter Oakhaven's identity, perhaps even its peace. Generations had lived under this comforting myth. But could she live with the lie? The weight of Lyra's words, her desperate pleas for future generations to remember the lost, pressed on Elara's conscience. During the next Harvest Moon Festival, as Mayor Thompson began his usual oration, Elara stood at the edge of the town square, the heavy journal clutched in her hands. The air thrummed with celebration, the soft glow of the cultivated moss, harvested from the same stolen grove, decorating the town hall. Just as the mayor reached the part about the divine discovery of the moss, Elara took a deep breath. She didn't shout, she didn't accuse. Instead, she simply opened the journal to a page marked with a dried pressed fern. A page detailing Lyra's final, heart-wrenching entry about the lasting shame and the true cost of their prosperity. As she held it up, a gasp rippled through the crowd. Old Man Hemlock, the town's eccentric storyteller, his eyes unusually bright, leaned forward. He had always hinted at unquiet spirits in the woods. Then, the twist. As Elara prepared to read, a sudden, powerful tremor shook the ground. Not an earthquake, but something deeper, more resonant. From the very heart of the Whisperwood, a sound emerged, a low, mournful hum, accompanied by a faint, ethereal glow. It wasn't the cultivated moss from the town square. This glow was wilder, pulsating with an ancient energy, and it was moving towards them. The displaced community, thought long gone and forgotten, had returned. They had been watching, waiting. The journal wasn't just a record of their suffering, it was a signal, passed down through generations of Lyra's descendants, awaiting the one who would finally bring it into the light. The tremor was their arrival, their song of reclamation. Oakhaven's myth hadn't merely crumbled, it was being replaced by a living, breathing history, emerging from the very shadows it had tried to create. The true story of Oakhaven, not just its founding, but its reckoning, had finally begun.